The studio lights of The View blazed brighter than usual that morning, flooding the stage with an energy that even the producers felt buzzing behind the cameras. The audience was louder, more excited, clapping with a kind of anticipation usually reserved for politicians and controversial celebrities. Because today's guest was Keanu Reeves, a man known for his gentleness, privacy, and quiet wisdom, not for drama. The co-hosts expected a peaceful interview. The public expected humility. But Joy Behar, she expected something else entirely. She saw Keanu's calmness as a challenge, an opportunity to poke, prod, and provoke a reaction she could highlight in tomorrow's headlines. As the intro music faded and the applause settled into a hum, Joy leaned forward with a smirk that hinted trouble was already brewing. Keanu entered to a roar of applause, offering his trademark soft smile and humble wave. He took his seat at the center of the panel, legs crossed, posture relaxed but attentive. "Thank you for having me," he said politely. Sunny, Whoopi, and Sarah smiled warmly, clearly excited to talk about his new project. Joy, however, adjusted her glasses and stared at Keanu as if analyzing him under a microscope. The first few questions were easy, discussing the film, martial arts training, some light-hearted banter. Keanu responded in his usual thoughtful tone, his voice steady like he had all the time in the world. The audience was eating it up, but Joy wasn't. Her lips tightened. She wanted friction, and she was determined to get it. Then came the pivot. Joy interrupted Sunny mid-sentence, leaning forward aggressively. "Keanu, can I ask you something real?" she said, emphasizing the word real like the others had been asking fake questions. The room went noticeably quieter. Even the producers stiffened. Keanu nodded calmly. "Sure," he said. Joy inhaled, her voice taking on that sharp, dismissive tone she used when challenging guests she didn't like. "You've been labeled Hollywood saint," she said. "This perfect, humble guy. But nobody's really that perfect. Isn't all this nice guy stuff just an act?" The audience collectively gasped, a sound like the room had inhaled at once. Whoopi raised her eyebrows in disbelief. Sarah's mouth fell open. Joy just kept staring at Keanu, waiting, almost daring him to break. For a moment, Keanu didn't move. He simply looked at her, his eyes steady, not angry, but unshakably confident. It wasn't the reaction Joy expected. He didn't laugh it off. He didn't deflect. He just let the silence work for him. Then he spoke, slowly, clearly. "Joy," he said, "I don't think kindness is an act. I think it's a choice." His voice remained calm, almost too calm, and that made his words land harder. "And if being decent confuses you, that says more about you than it does about me." The audience erupted. Gasps, claps, cheers thundered through the studio. Joy blinked in shock, visibly taken aback. The other co-hosts stared at Keanu like they had never seen him sharpen his words so precisely. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her. He simply flipped her provocation back toward her with the softest, most devastating precision. The producers scrambled behind the cameras, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial early, but the moment was too electric, too raw, too real to interrupt. Joy shifted in her chair, her smirk wiped clean, her confidence rattled. Keanu remained still, calm, almost serene, like a man completely unfazed by confrontation. And though the segment had only just begun, the entire audience could feel it. Something massive had shifted. This wasn't going to be a typical interview. Keanu Reeves had arrived with truth, backbone, and unexpected fire, and Joy Behar had just met the version of him she wasn't ready for. The air on set had shifted. Everyone felt it. The studio audience was buzzing, whispering excitedly as they waited for the conversation to continue. Even the camera operators exchanged glances. They knew they had captured a moment that would explode online within hours. Joy, however, wasn't ready to relinquish control of the segment. She straightened up, forced a smile, and adjusted her cue cards with an overly dramatic flick of her wrist. Her ego had taken a hit, and she wasn't about to let Keanu walk away looking like the unshakable hero. Not on her watch. "Well," she said with a strained laugh, "that was cute. But let's get serious now." The condescension in her voice was thick enough to cut with a knife. Keanu remained calm, hands folded gently in his lap. His breathing didn't change, his posture didn't tighten. If Joy hoped to rattle him, she was aiming at the wrong target. Keanu, she continued, leaning closer, her tone sharp as a blade, you say kindness is a choice. Fine, but you've played these intense, violent characters for years. John Wick, Neo, assassins, outlaws. You've made a career out of violence. So how does a man who profits from violence claim to be some nice guy role model? The crowd reacted again, a mix of shocks, murmurs, and scattered boos. Sonny looked horrified. Sarah looked ready to jump in and stop the confrontation. Whoopi glared at Joy as if silently begging her to dial it back. But Joy didn't care. She wanted a crack in the armor. Keanu inhaled slowly, his jaw tightening just slightly, not with anger, but with intention. He turned his head toward Joy, his eyes steady, direct, almost piercing. Movies are storytelling, he said quietly. Stories about pain, loss, justice, and sometimes revenge. The way he delivered the words made the room fall silent. But the person I am on screen, he continued, is not the person I am in my life. Joy opened her mouth to interrupt, but Keanu kept going, softly, assertively, firmly. And if you can't tell the difference between a human being and the characters they play, he paused. The silence stretched. The audience leaned in. Then maybe you shouldn't be interviewing actors. The reaction was instant. Loud gasps, applause, laughter, even a few cheers. It was a soft-spoken knockout punch, the kind only Keanu could deliver. He didn't raise his voice, didn't attack her personally. He simply exposed the flimsy logic behind her attempt to undermine him. Joy blinked rapidly, caught off guard again, her cheeks reddening slightly. She forced a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, so now you're lecturing me about my job," she snapped. But Keanu didn't bite. He tilted his head slightly and said in a tone so gentle it stung, "No, I'm reminding you of mine." The audience roared again. Sunny covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Sarah exhaled in relief, visibly impressed by Keanu's calm dominance. Even Whoopi couldn't hide her smirk. Joy, meanwhile, was losing ground fast, her confidence slipping with every word he spoke. She shuffled her cards again, trying to regain control, but the energy in the room had shifted decisively. Keanu's presence, steady, grounded, unshaken, was overpowering Joy's usual chaos and bravado. The viewers at home would see it. The producers saw it. The panels saw it. Joy saw it most of all. Keanu wasn't just defending himself. He was redefining the conversation. And Joy realized, for the first time in a long time, that she was no longer the one steering it. The tension in the studio had become almost cinematic, every camera focused tightly, every audience member leaning forward, waiting for the next exchange. Even the producers in the control room were glued to the monitors, hands hovering over the commercial break button in case things spiraled further. Joy Behar, visibly irritated, wasn't used to losing control of a segment. She felt the audience drifting toward Keanu, felt the co-host silently siding with him, felt the pressure of millions watching. And instead of backing down, she doubled down. She sat forward, elbows on the desk, and said in a tone dripping with smug defiance, "All right, Keanu, if you're done preaching, let's talk about something fans actually want to know." Keanu didn't flinch. "Sure," he replied calmly. "Go ahead." His steady voice only annoyed her further. Joy's smile turned sharp. "You've built this whole humble guy reputation," she said, wagging a finger, "but there are rumors you've turned down huge roles because you didn't feel like doing them. Some people say you're difficult to work with." A wave of boos rippled through the audience, something that never happened on The View. Joy held up her hands dramatically. "Hey, I'm just asking what people want to know," she insisted, but no one bought it. The co-hosts looked embarrassed. Sunny shook her head slightly. Sarah looked downright uncomfortable. Whoopi stared at Joy like she had just stepped into traffic. Keanu leaned forward for the first time. Not aggressively, deliberately. Controlled. "Joy," he said, his voice low but firm, "when I turn down a role, it's because the story doesn't feel honest. Because creativity shouldn't be forced." Joy tried to interrupt, but Keanu didn't let her. His voice was still soft, but now it carried weight. "And if someone thinks that makes me difficult, then that person doesn't understand art or boundaries." The audience erupted in applause, some even standing. Joy rolled her eyes, but she felt the moment slipping away. And then she crossed the line. With a scoff, she muttered loud enough for her mic to pick up, "Maybe the real reason is you're scared your good guy image might finally crack." The room froze. Even the cameras seemed to stop moving. Whoopi's jaw tightened. Sarah's eyes widened. Sunny whispered, "Wow," under her breath. The audience reacted with a mix of gasps and disapproving shouts. Joy immediately realized she had gone too far, but her pride wouldn't let her retreat. She sat back, arms crossed, waiting to see if Keanu would finally lose his calm. But he didn't. Instead, he slowly sat up straighter, his expression shifting into something no one expected: quiet disappointment. Not anger. Not defensiveness. Disappointment. "Joy," he said softly, shaking his head. "You don't break people by being cruel. You only reveal yourself." The words hit like a silent earthquake. No shouting, no insult, no sarcasm, just truth, delivered with surgical precision. "And if kindness bothers you so much," he continued, "maybe ask yourself why." The audience exploded. Cheers, applause, whistles. Some people even stood up again. It felt like a courtroom where someone had just won an argument with irrefutable evidence. Joy, red-faced and flustered, looked down at her cards, flipping them pointlessly. She had poked, pushed, provoked, and Keanu had dismantled her with a single, devastating line. For the first time on that show, Joy Behar was silent. The balance of power had shifted completely. Keanu Reeves didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her. He simply told the truth in a way she couldn't escape. And the world was watching. The silence following Keanu's last line hung in the air like a live wire. It wasn't just awkward, it was electric. Even the audience, still buzzing with excitement, seemed unsure whether to stay quiet or erupt again. Joy sat stiffly in her chair, staring down at her cue cards as if they held an escape route. But they didn't. She had crossed the line, and everyone had seen it. Keanu's composure, meanwhile, remained unshakable. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't smug. He simply waited, hands folded, his breathing calm. He had made his point, and the room felt it. Whoopi, sensing chaos, cleared her throat and attempted to steer the conversation back on track. "Well," she said, "I think we can all agree that turned somewhere." The audience laughed awkwardly, grateful for a moment to release the tension. Whoopi looked at Keanu, her expression softening with genuine respect. "Keanu, I appreciate what you're saying about kindness. It's rare these days." Her subtle jab at Joy wasn't lost on anyone. Joy lifted her head slightly, shooting Whoopi a glare, but didn't speak. She knew anything she said now could make things worse. But Joy's silence didn't last long. As Whoopi moved on to a new topic, Keanu's philanthropic work, Joy suddenly cut in. "Oh, please," she said loudly, waving her hand dismissively. "Let's not pretend he's some kind of saint because he donates to charities. Every celebrity does that. It's PR." The audience reacted instantly. Boos, groans, even a loud, "Come on," from someone in the back. Keanu looked at her slowly, almost sadly, as though watching someone unravel. Joy, feeling the backlash, pushed harder. "I mean, honestly, do you expect people to believe you're just this perfect guy who gives away money out of the goodness of your heart?" Keanu didn't move for a moment. But then he leaned forward, not aggressively, but purposefully, and spoke in a tone so steady the audience instinctively quieted. "Joy," he began, "I don't talk about the things I do. Other people do." Joy blinked but said nothing. "And I don't donate money because it makes me look good. I do it because I've seen what suffering looks like. Up close." His voice softened further, carrying a heaviness that commanded attention. "I've lost people. I've been broken. I've had nothing." Joy looked uncomfortable, but Keanu continued, unmoved. "So if helping someone bothers you, maybe the problem isn't me." The audience exploded, cheers louder than any yet, whistles piercing through the applause. Even the camera operators grinned behind their lenses. Sarah placed a hand over her heart. Sunny mouthed, "Wow." Whoopi shook her head in amazement. Joy, on the other hand, looked like she had swallowed something sour. Her eyes darted around, searching for support, But none of the co-hosts came to her rescue. She was alone in the moment. Keanu didn't stop there. He leaned back, his expression calm, almost peaceful. "Kindness isn't publicity," he said. "It's humanity." His gaze met Joy's directly. "And I won't apologize for being human." That was it. The final blow, delivered in perfect Keanu form, gentle yet devastating. The audience jumped to their feet, giving him a standing ovation. The applause shook the room. Joy looked stunned, unable to respond, her usual sharpness reduced to silence. Whoopi gestured toward the control booth, and they immediately cut to commercial. But even as the cameras faded to black, the sound of the audience cheering echoed through the studio. Everyone knew what had just happened. Keanu Reeves didn't just defend himself. He didn't just shut Joy down. He redefined the entire tone of the show with truth, grace, and absolute strength. The commercial break was chaotic behind the scenes. Producers were scrambling, audience members were still on their feet, and the co-hosts were whispering among themselves, trying to process what had just happened. The room felt electric, charged with an energy that only a few live TV moments ever managed to create. Keanu sat quietly, adjusting his jacket, a soft smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Calm, composed, untouchable. The storm had passed, and he had emerged not only unscathed but elevated, untouchable even in the eyes of everyone watching. Social media would erupt within minutes, and the word mic drop would trend within the hour. Joy sat frozen, a rare moment of vulnerability flashing across her face. She fumbled with her cue cards, pretending to read them but not seeing a single word. The co-hosts exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Sarah shook her head slightly, acknowledging Keanu's composure. Sunny gave a small, impressed smile. Whoopi leaned back in her chair, smirking, knowing they had just witnessed a rare display of truth and grace on live television. The audience, meanwhile, was buzzing with whispers, laughter, and applause, their excitement spilling into every corner of the studio. People didn't just come to see Keanu Reeves, they had come to witness something remarkable, something unforgettable. When the cameras returned after the break, Keanu continued the conversation with his usual poise, talking about his latest film, the people he admired, and the importance of humility in a world obsessed with image. He answered questions honestly, softly, yet with authority, leaving the room captivated. Joy attempted a few questions, trying to regain control, but her voice lacked its usual punch. Every time she tried to provoke, Keanu's calm and quiet insight deflected her words effortlessly. The audience, clearly aware of what had transpired, sided with him. The balance of power had permanently shifted. Backstage, producers were already planning how to edit the segment. Clips of Keanu's calm yet devastating responses would dominate the network's highlights. Social media teams were live-streaming snippets, hashtags were trending, and viewers were debating the exchange in real time. Even outside the studio, fans were calling in, tweeting, and sharing their shock at the rare sight of someone dismantling Joy Behar's confrontational tactics with nothing but composure and precision. Keanu had managed to remain kind, human, and powerful all at once, a combination that left the internet and viewers alike completely captivated. As the final moments of the show wrapped, Keanu stood to leave, offering his trademark smile and soft wave to the audience. Applause followed him to the exit, echoing in the studio like a victory chant. The co-hosts smiled, some shaking their heads in disbelief at the subtle yet undeniable force Keanu had demonstrated. Joy Behar, for the first time in years on live television, was rendered speechless. She had come to confront, challenge, and provoke, and she left witnessing something far greater, the quiet strength of a man who needed no theatrics to prove his integrity, his truth, or his humanity. Keanu Reeves didn't just survive the encounter. He transcended it, leaving a moment that would be replayed, discussed, and remembered for years to come. And in that moment, everyone watching knew one undeniable truth. Keanu Reeves didn't just shut down Joy Behar. He redefined what it meant to stand tall under pressure, with nothing but honesty, grace, and an unwavering sense of self.